In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Incoming!
Hello and welcome to the Omnic Lab, a podcast that focuses on the strategies inside the game of Overwatch. We learn through trial and error in our lab, even if things get a bit crazy and may blow up. We'll brew some team composition strategies, stir in some tips to play a little bit better, and even equip you listeners with the instruments that you need to gain a strategic edge. I'm your host, Rob May. I play some of the bumpers each week, and I'm your main host, and joining me today is Andres from Georgia. What's up, Andres?
What's up, Rob? Super happy to be here. Super excited about Overwatch. I've been playing it a ton this week, especially the competitive side, the competitive mode. And it's been tough. You know, blood, sweat, and tears pretty much every game. But fun at the same time. Learning a lot. And I think everybody who's playing it right now is learning a lot.
Yeah, especially that open beta weekend that we just got finished playing.
Yeah.
Let me tell
That was quite a roller coaster.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
talking about the open beta before we move on, what do you think about some of the new people that joined the beta? Because I was kind of excited of having like a jump start on some of these people. I was like, oh, great, newbies. So some of the games can be a little more fun. Maybe I can play heroes that I'm not that good at and still do good. But to my surprise, some of these people are incredibly good. I don't know if it was
I feel like they kind of gave all the open beta keys to those CSGO players that are sick of playing CSGO or old-time Quake and Doom fans that are just kind of getting antsy.
There was like some level 2s and 3s like sniping like crazy. I'm like, wow, these guys are good. Or maybe like they have played Overwatch before, or they're people who play Overwatch who got their second account in or something. Or some of them maybe just are like long season first-person shooters, but it made me realize that when the game kicks out, like some of the newer people might not be as bad as you might think they are.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I always was like, okay, if there's a Soldier 76 on the opponent team, I'm gonna be very, very careful because like I died so many times to see to those good Soldier 76 players just getting in, flanking me and wiping our whole team with their ultimates. It's just like I can't handle this. But yeah, it was a challenge to be sure because those type of players were also intermixed with players that don't play FPSs that just jump in and play Reaper.
There were those too. There were the players who really had no idea what they were doing and not really killing anyone. So it was both. But it was cool. It was cool to see a nice little experiment.
Yeah. But that brings us to what we're talking about today. Today in the lab, we're covering basics for heroes in a 4-part series, okay? So we're going to talk each of the roles as established by what Overwatch has portrayed within this game. But this week, we're talking offensive heroes.
Offense, yeah.
So we're really going to dive into kind of the specializations with each hero, who they can synergize with, what they synergize around team composition-wise, and then how to build a team around them, per se. But usually you don't want to build a team around each one of these heroes. You kind of use them to support the overall team scenario. And then we're also going to kind of plug them in a few maps as kind of like a theory crafting section for each of the heroes. So we're going to talk in depth about Tracer, Soldier 76, Reaper, McCree, and Pharah.
That's correct.
But before we do all of that, we have a lot of news that dropped pretty much the day after we podcasted with you all. So let's cover those and kind of a brief wrap up, as well as just some quick updates in the news. So first thing we talked about already in the show was the beta test weekend recap. It went really well. The servers on the first couple hours were just slammed, but they really seemed to get their act together and they seemed to be pretty good. I feel like for those of you that were able to get into this weekend, this is a really, really good, I guess, feel for what you can expect on opening day. It's going to be servers getting slammed, lots of people playing. Nobody's going to be accurately matched in matchmaking, and everybody's kind of like level playing field as far as overall progress is concerned. Andres, any other additional comments there?
No, I think you nailed it. I think, well, the whole point of this stress test is so they can know how much their service can handle, right? And from what we saw, they're gonna need to bump it up a little bit, or really increase the amount of them have. I don't really know how it works. I'm not a tech guy with that sort of thing, but they still need a little more, especially with the influx that they're probably expecting of people coming in when they release. So hopefully that gets sorted out. But first day there might be a couple hiccups here and there connected to the server. The game itself is very solid, and a lot of bugs have been completely ironed out. So I don't expect the game itself to be buggy or anything, but maybe on the server side, hopefully it won't be too hard.
So Andres, why don't you walk our listeners through what's coming with the road to launch?
Yeah, absolutely. So the closed beta is coming to a close. I believe it closes on the 25th of April.
Monday.
Yep, next Monday. Sadly, they're taking away our closed beta. Won't be able to play Overwatch, but thankfully not for long, since on May 3rd and May 4th for Europe, I believe, open beta is coming for the people who pre-purchase the game. So anyone who has gotten the game already gets to play again in the open beta, and then from May 5th to the 9th, there's an open beta for everyone who just wants to try the game, which is super awesome. I'm sure that anyone who follows this podcast probably already knows this information and is pretty up to date with that. But if you don't know about that, and if you're in the you're still on the fence about buying the game, this would probably be the best time to try it. You get to play for free for about 4 days. And if you're not convinced after that, then you probably don't want to play this game. But I believe you will be convinced.
I have a lot of friends that are not shooter players, nor do they have even a background in shooters, let alone a few LANs or dorm parties that they've had. But let me tell you, this game is surprisingly fun.
Yeah.
Even without that mechanical skill. So, sorry, I got distracted by chat there for a second. But if you want to get some more in-depth things, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this week, because I feel like Jeff Kaplan's video, The Road to Launch, that we've linked in our show notes, is really kind of the best way to recap that. They've done a really, really good job at communicating to the fans what they didn't expect. So basically, you can expect April 25th or Monday to close this closed beta. And then May 3rd, it'll open up for early access for 2 days. And then May 5th, the open beta will have full launch. And you'll have that through the 9th, and then it'll close back up again, and then it'll reopen on opening day, the 24th of May.
Yep, and things to note is all the progress will be wiped out, so players who are worried that everyone else is going to have a head start who's already in closed beta, you don't have to worry. Everything will start from 0, so everyone starts at even ground. No one gets any levels or anything for free, no skins, unless you pre-purchase. Everyone who pre-purchase gets a couple of cool skins.
The 6 skins, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about this, despite being in the closed beta and having almost a level 50 character. And Andres, you kind of echo the same opinions, even though you're over 100, because it gives people an unfair advantage for being an unfair RNG invite.
Absolutely. So and really for like for a game that was in closed beta, so that not everyone who wanted to play it could, it really seems unfair for the players who were lucky enough to get in to have a head start. And I was expecting
they've done this with all of their games too.
I never got attached to my levels or my skins, even though some of them are really cool. I'm gonna have to get them all again. Honestly, I'm ready for the wipe and to see what I get with my new loot boxes.
Yeah, and also important to note, the loot boxes are a system that aren't just designed around level making, but you can leveling up in the progression system. But it seems like that is a buy mode, as they've added that button next to it that you can purchase loot boxes. So we'll figure out how that system works with the real currency and how Overwatch is going to continue to make money outside of just the game sales themselves with the in-game transactions. Changes to the game overall, aka new skins, new stuff, balance changes, huge things that are coming like maps and new heroes. They said that none of the changes will be drastic up until after launch. So you guys can anticipate relatively the same heroes at the same level that you may have experienced during this over beta weekend. They're going to try to carry over very similar things just to kind of get it up to snuff balance-wise, and then they're going to start dropping bigger things after that, immediately looking after more of the competitive mode changes, some features. They've also mentioned spectator mode and iterations around that. They've even instituted some targets about free heroes and maps to look for post-launch, and then pacing for changes within the game along the lines of their financial stuff. But all of this, again, is going to happen after launch, so you guys can just sit and ride the wave until after launch and kind of enjoy the game as we get there.
That's right. They seem like they struck a balance with the game that they like, and they're not going to mess with that until it releases, because it would be foolish of them to try to do some rash changes right before everyone gets it, right? And I think they got a good sample size from everyone who played the open beta.
We got a lot of data.
In
from
his
that
interview,
weekend.
he did say that everyone played so much that they were able to gather enough information, which makes sense. You know, a bunch of addicts just playing.
It was like
Overwatch.
2 days. It's like, oh, I gotta play all I can.
They probably had enough information on the first week just from some people playing. But yeah. Aside from that, looking forward to the game releasing, and I know that competitive mode is gonna be the one that they're gonna iterate the most on after it comes out. This is the newest addition to the beta, and is the one that they really have been kind of like trying out new stuff. They're changing some of the things that people are used to in the competitive scene, so it's not something that is set in stone for now. I know that they're gonna do a preseason, kind of like Heroes of the Storm, where nobody starts in the season 1. Is just kind of like a warm-up where everyone gets a taster of it. They can do some changes, and they'll probably be the first thing that we see being changed, the first major change. And then after that, we can be looking into other heroes, other maps, and spectator mode. Hopefully they do like the theater mode they were talking about.
I can't wait for spectator mode, like for real.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
Cool.
For casting and stuff. Why don't we jump into just briefly some patch notes? So Andres, I'm gonna pass it off to you.
All right, yeah, they did a couple changes, not anything major, just some kind of like convenience-y stuff. There's no more white
like
portraits anymore.
Quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life. No more white portraits. I think they probably thought they were boring. They were kind of like not cool.
I found that odd, honestly. I think that was just something they wanted to cycle out, but because they have so many different levels of each one, like getting a star is kind of lame in the first part, but taking 200 levels to get a star and a color is kind of like, wow, this is.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna change that eventually, or if they're gonna leave it like that. I don't know. It seems like they're still trying to work out exactly how they want to go with the levels, because I know they've only done up to level 1800, right? I believe that's
but that's still a long way though.
That's a long way, yeah. But it's supposed to be an infinite system, so we'll see. But anyway, no more white portrait. Now you start with a bronze, and then when you get to level 100, you gain a star. 200, 2 stars. 300, 3 stars. So I guess in that regard, it's easier to know in what tier you are, like 100, 200 by the number of stars. It makes a lot more sense. So that's fine. They removed some sprays. I guess some of them were not very popular. Hanamura got disabled temporarily. I guess they had some spawning issues. Hopefully we'll see it come out before the beta goes down, because I like playing on that map, even though we got to play enough.
I think I experienced this during the open beta weekend. Like, I spawned in defense, and I like took 2 steps forward and just like fell through the map. It was really strange.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that might be some of the stuff that was going on. So yeah, disabled for now. And then the two things that I think are the major things in this patch is in Route 66, the payload was slowed by 10% because it was a map where the balance was kind of tilted on the attacker side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they also adjusted some of the health spots, mainly to the detriment of the attackers. So no longer the attackers have some of the health packs that were available to them really close by. They're now
they had them like right outside of the gate.
Yeah, the one that when you go into the hangar, there was one like to the right, like a big health pack that was really easy to get by the attacking team. That one is no longer there. And then I think they adjusted a couple others, which I think is good because
it's good.
Yeah,
it's a good change.
They're right. The attacking team had a great advantage in that map.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna adjust any of the health pack locations around where the offense is coming in for what's it called, the gas station portion of the map, because that seemed really, really hard to defend against because there's so many line of sight things, and getting back to that location on defense is pretty tough a lot of the times.
I don't know. We'll see. I think that for now they're gonna leave it like that, and I think with this it should be enough for really good defending teams to be able to do it. And then last one is in Volskaya. They moved the spawn points a little further back. It's obviously honestly a minor change. I played it today, and you just start further back in the initial library, kind of like up the stairs rather than like in the ground floor where you start. So very minor, but I guess it gives the defending team a couple more seconds added over time. Very subtle change. And then,
good changes all over.
That's pretty much it.
And there's a few bug fixes along the way. But let's get into the main topic of the episode, the offensive heroes.
Let's do it. All right. We thought it was a good idea to talk about each of the heroes' roles, because in Overwatch, all of the heroes can do a lot of things, and all of them can get different jobs done, but they're all kind of nuanced to be able to do certain things better than others, or be able to have an edge over certain heroes than others.
Exactly.
And when you're building a team composition in Overwatch, it is important to keep in mind what each hero is good at and when they're not good at it, so that when you build it, the composition makes sense and it has synergy with each other. And not only has synergy with each other, it has synergy with the objective that your team is trying to achieve. So in order to be able to talk a little more about team composition and stuff, we thought it was better to start with each of the individual heroes and go through what they do and what's their potential, so that later on we can have a little more informed discussions about compositions and why they work. So starting out, we'll do offense heroes.
Start with Tracer.
Yeah. Before we go into this, I wanted to give a little example of why team composition is so good. And I saw this week on the Gosu Gamers Cup that they do the weekly thing. That basically most of the top teams in Overwatch sign up for weekly. So if you want to watch like regular tournaments, it's a great place to check. Just check the Gosu Gamers Overwatch section, and you'll find all the information there. But for a while, in this weekly cup, there's been a team composition on control maps in the King of the Hill style maps. That is the double Tracer, double Winston, double Lucio, that all the pro teams have been using because they haven't found anything that can beat this. Most of the teams, when they play this, they just outright win on the King of the Hill maps. And some people have tried a couple different things, but this composition is just really, really strong because of how
really
mobile everyone is. Everyone is speed boosted, Tracers move like crazy, and then Winstons can jump anywhere. And as long as they're sticking together, like two Winstons jumping on you, like can destroy any Lucio, any Mercy, even Tracers that are jumping around. So it's a really strong comp. But this week we saw something really interesting, where a team, Luminosity, versus Cloud9, which was playing the standard comp on Legion Tower. Luminosity did something really cool, and they brought this team composition. It was based on 2 McCrees, 1 Bastion, a Zarya, a Mercy, and a Lucio. And basically what they were focusing on was, they call it El Presidente, and they're just guarding Bastion as if it was like the most important guy in the world. So you got 2 McCrees side to side guarding this guy from any Tracer that is coming near him. You have Mercy damage boosting him for as long as she can. And then you have Zarya kind of like perusing around and putting barriers.
Crowd control.
Yeah, putting barriers on Bastion or on the healers as needed. And then you have your Lucio kind of like keeping everyone a little bit healed.
Yeah, a little healthy.
Yeah, and basically what they did was like, their Bastion, first of all, was an amazing Bastion, of course. But he would jump into the fray of things, and in a matter of seconds with the Tracer damage boost would annihilate these Winstons or the Tracers if they came by anywhere near. And they were able to do a like astounding 3-0 all 3 rounds in Lijiang Tower.
Yeah.
And against this
Now,
comp.
I wanna highlight something with this comp. This isn't a original idea per se, because the Protect the President is a game mode that people play when you want to go like paintballing, or you want to go airsoft stuff, or you're just practicing. It's a general game type
it's a
that
known
you can
tactic
do.
in first-person shooters.
Exactly.
And they adapted it
Exactly.
into Overwatch. Absolutely. But I just think
very
it's
cool
like
strat.
it's a very cool way to exemplify on how different compositions, and depending how you make him and change him, can really hard counter another one. And using people to their best potential, like having them increase as bodyguards against tracers, and then having your mercy boosting the Bastion, as well as, like, for example, the mobile comp we're talking about, double Lucio, double Tracer. All those are like very synergistic stuff. But this game is all about kind of like switching and countering and that sort of thing, and it's important to know what each hero does. So cool little example I wanted to give you on why it's important to know all these things.
Well, that's being said, let's jump right into why Tracer's good. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
First of all, you want to understand that Tracer is probably going to be one of the most played heroes. Like, a lot of people we've said, we get people upset at saying, oh, this person insta-locks Widowmaker, insta-locks Hanzo, and our team comp doesn't support that sort of thing, and we're on offense, and blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are going to insta-lock Tracer because she's just all-round. She's very well-rounded. She has a lot of mobility. She's what we call the harasser. She's the one that gets in. She gets in tight. She gets out. She's very slippery. And then she also can output a lot of damage, like boom, and then blink back. She probably is one of the highest mobilities in the game, and she is also a predator for single target removal, I guess you could say, to use Hearthstone terms, for Overwatch. She's all geared towards, I want to remove this player, so I'm going to play Tracer, and I'm going to go blink, 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 and they're dead, and then I'm out. That's kind of the idea. The drawbacks to playing Tracer then would be groups against a Tracer usually can take her out. She's not necessarily a tank killer per se. I won't say that. Again, there's always exceptions to rules with things, but we're kind of broad brushing blankets on this. Blanket strokes. And then she's also used to bypass choke points in order to disrupt opponents and get your whole team through that choke point.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary of Tracer. To me, like, to give a good analogy, Tracer is like an annoying mosquito. That annoying mosquito that is, you're trying to go to sleep in the middle of the night and it keeps coming right up to your ear and just buzzing right there, and you try to snap him away, but he just flies away too fast and you can't do it, and eventually he gets you and he just steals a little bit of blood and keeps on doing it, and you're like, oh, you just can't get rid of him. That's how Tracer feels when it's being played correctly. Like you said, she's the harasser. She's meant to kind of like be there, trying to grab your attention, but running away fast enough that you can't really devote your full attention to her, especially because she's so good at getting away. Sometimes chasing a Tracer can be very, very detrimental for your team because you're focusing away from your objective. You leave your team and you then go into her territory where you're by yourself, and she has a feast on you.
It's like a lightning rod.
Yeah. Tracer is great at picking up characters like Mercies or Señoras that usually hide in the backline. They're gonna be behind the tanks, behind everyone else, but with Tracer it's easy to either flank through the sides or literally just blink to the back and quickly bring down these characters, since they don't have a lot of health, and Tracer can hit very hard, especially if you're getting headshots up close. So in just a clip or clip and a half, you can get one of these healers, and then you can just recall back out of there to safety. She's a really, really strong hero, one of the strongest right now. It's very like people pick it a lot in the competitive scene, but it's also strong, a very, very hard hero to play. Tracer is not the type of hero that you just pick up the first day and you're then destroying the whole enemy team. Her blinks actually take a little bit of time getting used to. You usually want to get a sense of timing and also a sense of direction for how you're blinking. Normally, when I started playing Tracer, I was finding myself blinking forward and sometimes backwards a lot. But the more I play her and the more I learn her, the more I find myself blinking to the sides and diagonally, and also trying to keep in mind where your access points and exit points are, like alleyways or little pathways where health packs might be. It's very important that you're aware of all your escape routes with Tracer, as well as where the health packs are, because a good Tracer can know when to engage, but knows when to disengage as well. So as soon as you find yourself in trouble, your recall is down, you only have maybe a couple blinks, you can blink out into a little alleyway, get a health pack, run around to the other end, flank, wait for your recall to come back up, for all your blinks to recharge, and then you can re-engage again.
Now, Andres, this is something that's really tough to master on Tracer, but I want to try to cover it. How effectively can you use a pulse bomb? Because I feel like a lot of Tracers just run in there, they drop their pulse bomb somewhere, even on the ground, and just try to like use it as not necessarily a deletion tool, but more of a disruption tool. And
yeah, more like,
is both
like
of those okay?
Kind of thing. Usually with Tracer, I find that the best effect for your pulse bomb is to stick it on people. You want to get good at blinking close to people and sticking the pulse bomb on them. And it's hard to do because the pulse bomb has a very short range. You're not able to throw it very far, so you have to be kind of almost at melee range to be able to stick this. And obviously Tracer is a very squishy hero, and when you're up that close to other heroes, it's very easy for you to get killed, especially if you're trying to reach into a hero that's in kind of like the middle of the enemy team, which is usually kind of like a prime target, right?
Yeah.
So you want to kind of practice that a little bit, sticking the bomb to other heroes, and then picking your target can be very important too, and it depends on what the enemy composition is, right? If you're, for example, in the attack, and the defending team is relying on their bastion, they're kind of like protecting their bastion, and their bastion is very well positioned and is giving your team a very hard time, then that might be your prime target for the pulse bomb. So you can blink close to him and put it in there. But honestly, you're looking for good opportunities for it all the time, since with Tracer, you get a pulse bomb relatively often, as long as you're dealing constant damage. Good things for it is when the enemy team is cluttered up. For example, they're pushing a payload, and they got a couple people up in there. Sometimes they have like a Torbjorn putting turrets in there, covered by a Reinhardt or the sort of thing. If you can get in the middle of that thing with your blinks, leave the pulse bomb and get out of it with a recall, that's usually a good call too. Or if they're doing kind of like what I call camping, they're camping a room, a bunch of heroes, and not kind of like zoning everyone away from it. You can kind of get in there and do that too. In regards to single target ones, a lot of people like sticking on tanks and trying to take the tank down. But although that can be very valuable, I find that sometimes the bomb explodes and the tank doesn't necessarily die completely, and then maybe the healer can get him up. So sometimes it's a little better to pick targets that you can know for sure are gonna die.
You're gonna delete them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like if you can stick it like on a Genji, or if you can stick it even like on an enemy Tracer, like those are targets that are even harder for your team to take out. But obviously also harder for you to stick the bomb on.
You to stick, yeah. The catch-22 of Tracer, as it were, gentlemen and ladies.
So yeah.
All right, so we need to move on. Let's go on to Soldier 76. Soldier 76 is, Soldier 76 is our frontline soldier. Basically, you want to look at him as the vanilla Call of Duty expert controller type style of play. He's excellent at sustaining DPS or damage per second on other targets, similar to Tracer, less bursty, but can shoot for longer and at further distances without any drop-off.
He does have a, well, I don't know, I think he does.
A slight drop-off at long range.
Maybe a little bit, but it's very small, yeah.
Right. His travel distance on his shots are near instant. Like, they're very fast travel.
They're fast, but they do have a travel time, yeah. It's important to note.
Yeah, everything in the game will have a travel time, but soldiers
not
are
everything.
super
Let's say,
fast.
McCree and Widow don't. They're hit
Oh,
scan
they don't.
characters. Yeah, wherever you shoot, you hit. But this guy
Okay.
does have.
Okay. So that being said, Soldier's still very reliable at providing burst damage, even though he is a sustained damage character, because he has the ability to weave in a helix rocket between shots. And that is his alternate fire that does also splash damage and a slight knockback. He can heal both your team and himself with a biotic field that he can lay on the ground for zoning, as well as a comeback mechanic. If you can run into a room and drop that instead of finding a health pack, that can usually help you out as well, although not ideal. It will also key, in fact, to specializing on your Soldier 76. If you're on the payload on offense or on defense, you can drop this on the payload and it will move just like a Winston shield will. He has an ultimate that is extremely powerful. It's just like an aim assist tool.
Pretty much.
And will do a lot of damage. You still have to reload like normal, but it does a lot of damage and will instantly reload your clip upon activation. Soldier's surprisingly mobile because he has a sprint that nobody else does have. Everybody has their own thing, and then maybe a Tracer will have a blink or somebody will have some sort of scaling mechanic. However, Soldier just has a flat ability to run fast. He fits in a lot of team comps. That's one of his biggest strengths is his versatility and his ability to always be a support, a utility, and a sustained damage character.
That's correct. If you're looking for just some good damage, whether for offense or defense or King of the Hill, Soldier is your guy. He's your all-around good at everything. He can deal good damage at any range, short, medium, or like far. He can also heal a little bit. He can run fast. He has a little bit of AoE, a little bit of everything, pretty much, and he does all the things relatively well. He's not like a jack of all trades, master of none. He's like jack of all trades, master of a few.
Yeah. He's definitely more of a damage-oriented character, which is why they put him in this field of offense.
It's definitely an offensive character, although I feel like when we say offensive, we should clarify what we mean. First of all, we don't mean somebody that is just very...
He's very vulgar.
Vulgar. We don't mean vulgar people. But offensive characters don't necessarily mean that they're only good for attack. They just mean that they're good at putting out damage. They're good at furthering your front line, right? They put up the pressure. They kill. They're the guys who kill the enemy guys. Although defensive characters can have the same damage as some offensive characters, but just the style of them, they're very like infiltrations or let's get in there and deal some damage.
Yeah, you can almost relabel the roles of offense, defense, support, and tanks as being pushers and advancement type people, or like pushing objective and pushing pressure onto the opponent and being very oppressive that way. You can refer to defensive heroes as hold the line type heroes. They're basically trying to keep you where you are and maybe not give your opponents any edge. They're not normally frontliners, but they're usually supporting with damage, but kind of the mid to back line. The tanks are the ones that are like your front end soakers. They soak the damage. They make sure that they're giving your team an advantage and trying to get people to focus on them. And supports will be kind of your heroes that will orient the whole team together to mesh, as well as keeping them to be alive or keeping them to put up their pressure through like a teleporter or something like an advantage.
Replenishing them. We should have started with that actually. But basically, yes, offense heroes are just heroes that specialize on breaking into areas and dealing lots of damage, being very highly mobile. They can flank, they can get through places that most other heroes can't, and they have a little trade-off of the high mobility versus survivability. So some of these heroes can't survive as much or a little squishier, but they tend to deal a little more damage and then tend to have abilities that can get them into the back lines or into cool places to get rid of the enemy team. Alright, so back to Soldier 76. Yes, he's your overall frontliner. He's great damage, great sustained damage. A few things to note about him when you're playing Soldier 76. You always want to be shooting at something. I can't stress this enough.
Yeah.
You are the guy that is putting up the constant pressure for your team. If you're not shooting somebody, you're doing it wrong. Thankfully for him, he has enough health and the ability to heal to where he can usually stand close to the tank and the healer, kind of like in the medium line. You
gotta think of him as a hybrid of most roles.
Yeah, like if anyone plays StarCraft, he's kind of like the Rainer, right? He like stands his ground and he's like shooting everything away like a manly man, right? So you always want to be dealing damage and having the pressure up. You want to use your Helix Rocket on cooldown, especially on the squishy heroes. A couple tips to use your Helix Rocket: if the target is moving a lot in front of you, try to aim it at their feet rather than straight at them. Since when it hits the ground, it creates a splash and it still deals the damage around it. It's easier to hit that way. Or when you see that the heroes are running away towards the door or running away from you, it's good to aim it towards the door, and that way you cannot guarantee the hit. And if you're able to land a Helix Rocket on any squishy hero, it's almost a guaranteed kill. So very powerful move.
Yeah, now using something on cooldown, for those of you that are not MOBA players, is maybe a term that you're not used to. Using something on cooldown in Overwatch means as soon as it's available, you're using it. And if you're in a WoW scenario, they have these things called a rotation, or basically a spell rotation of things that you use in combination with one another to maximize your damage. And Helix Rocket is one of those things.
Yep. Another thing is be mindful where you drop your biotic field, which is your healing, because whatever you drop it creates a relatively large area, and any of your teammates who are standing in it also get healed. So don't always just use it to heal yourself. If you're fully topped off and you're not using a time self cooldown and one of your allies is really hurt, throw it over them, and you can save a lot of lives this way, and you can be kind of like a small support in that way for your team. And the last thing is his ult. His ult, like we said, is super strong, and using it at the right time can really change the tide of battle for you. You're usually waiting for things like a crowd control effect, so people like Reinhardt ulting a couple of the enemy team, or Zarya laying her ult and gravitroning a ton of people in, so that they're kind of like put together in front of you and they can't really move. It's a great spot to unload your ult. A few other uses for the ult is really hard heroes to hit, like Tracer or Genji, that might giving your team a lot of trouble. Maybe if the enemy team is using things like double Tracers, which can be really pesky because they're running all over the place, they're hard to hit. You can use your ult to instantly take him down because they can't run away from that. You'll hit every hit. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're playing him.
Okay, and let's move on to Reaper. So Reaper is the shotgun hero. He is your close range flank from the shadows. He infiltrates and gets in close quarters and deletes you. That's kind of his approach.
Know this role very well, because in a lot of first-person shooters, the shotgunner is very well known, right? Just a flanker, close-range flanker that is usually up in the rafters of buildings trying to jump on people and get quick kills up close like that.
They're usually hiding behind walls, camping in buildings, or in small quarter locations in order to get maximum damage. Although, in Overwatch, it's not advantageous to camp, so you have to play Reaper a little differently. He's excellent at wearing down tanks because he's able to output a lot of damage very quickly. And he's slippery enough with his E ability to either teleport or he can also use his... Or not teleport. Teleport's a shift ability, correct?
E is the teleport and shift is his Wraith Walk.
Yeah. So he can basically go invulnerable and kind of move at a little bit faster rate and get out of an area. And he can also teleport to really tough to achieve locations. He's also got one of the... I think his ultimate might provide the most damage over the course of the ultimate than any other hero in at the shortest amount of time. Yeah.
I could believe that. I mean, Pharah is up there too, but the thing about him is that is radial, right? So it deals a ton of damage to everything around him, while Pharah is a little more directional.
So he has this ultimate that is called Death Blossom that is able to hit everything around him for massive amounts of damage, almost as if his shotguns are hitting you at point blank range.
Teams that are sticking together can get annihilated with this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And he's really, really good at disrupting point captures or going in to capture a point, or if you're in a control map where you're trying to hold a point and they're sitting on it, you can basically eliminate the whole team, etc. He has really good mobility, surprisingly, and survivability with that Wraith Walk. And he has this really cool thing that we have built our brand around called the Souls. And I'm going to pass it off to Andres to kind of explain how Souls work.
Yeah, he has a passive trait that every time an enemy hero dies, you don't have to kill it. Just whenever an enemy hero dies, they drop a soul in the ground, which, funny enough, is a little logo for the Omnic lab. Wait, let me point at it. Yeah, right there. That's how they look, and they are very delicious for Reaper. He loves eating those things. He loves feasting in the soul of his enemies, and they heal him for a lot. So when he's able to get in close range, kill an enemy, and then instantly eat the soul of the enemy, he can heal almost back to full and continue his little onslaught that he's going through. Another thing to note about Reaper is that he is very, very bad at long range. He does terribly bad against heroes that can keep a distance from him, and does really good against most heroes that are up close to him. Like you said, he's amazing against tanks. He, especially if he gets the upper hand on them, he can worm them really fast. Like characters like Winston really are afraid of Reaper, because his shotguns, the way that they work is they shoot about 10 pellets, and I think that each pellet deals like 14 damage. Yeah, like 14 damage or something like that. So whenever you're targeting small heroes, you might only hit, I don't know, 5-6 pellets if you're firing up close to them, which is still a significant amount of damage, right? 60 to 90 damage. But whenever you're hitting people like Winston, Roadhog, Reinhardt, you're striking all of the pellets at them at once.
You're hitting them for over 100.
It's about 140 damage per hit.
Plus headshot doubling.
Plus headshot doubling all the damage. So sometimes you can take out a tank in literally like 4 hits
like
of your
shots.
shotgun. Yeah, if you're like up close and firing on their head. So really amazing for this. If you see the enemy team having very tank heavy composition, Reaper is a great choice to kind of counter this sort of thing. And then he's
super
also
fun to play too.
Yeah, he's also a very, very good flanker because of his E ability that allows him to get up pretty much anywhere or behind the enemy line without the enemy really seeing him if he's sneaky enough. It's easy for him to get up close to people like Widowmakers or Hanzos, and there's nothing more terrifying as a Widowmaker or a Hanzo to have Reaper right behind you.
He's basically the rogue from WoW in a futuristic universe, and they threw some shotguns at him instead of daggers, and they made him really sneaky.
Yeah.
So
what I think about Reaper,
they give you a lot of cool tools.
Yeah, he is surprisingly a little bit tanky. He does have 200 HP, and because he's able to self-heal with souls, and he's able to wraith walk out of a lot of things,
he can
actually have quite a bit of survivability. Things to know though, once your Wraith Walk is off of cooldown, it's pretty much kill or die with Reaper. You have no other way of getting away. Thankfully, he's good at a close quarter combat, so you kind of always want to lure your prey into a hallway or into a room where they have to be really close to you. Reaper is awesome in control point maps because the enemy team has to be on the point, right? They might have a sniper or something from afar, but at least a couple of them have to be standing in there, and that is exactly what Reaper wants. He wants people to come to him. So especially
Reaper's motto is die, die, die.
Reaper likes having people up close. So in control point maps, he's awesome, especially with his ult. He can just jump in there, ult right away, and kill everyone. And then I guess
speaking of dying. Let's move on to McCree, the high noon slick shooter himself. We're calling him the skirmisher. 1v1 me, bro.
Yeah.
I like how Andres always puts that with McCree.
That's
McCree
how-
is
that's how I
the
feel with
skirmisher,
McCree.
the duelist.
Yeah.
He
McCree likes
is-
picking up people one-on-one. That's his thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's all about that quick draw and dueling people. So he is absolutely if you have a 50-50 scenario where you can win and you have equivalent mechanical skill on paper, McCree will win every time. He is amazing. He's bursty. He has a stun lock that can kill you. He can instantly reload with and reposition at the same time with one of his abilities. He has a hit and scamper away mentality. So if you're absolutely unconfident in your skills or somebody is a full team there, you can stun one and roll away. He's also very rewarding if you're good at your mechanical skill. He's pretty similar to Tracer that way, where the more mechanically skilled you are with hitting headshots or hitting body shots with the Peacekeeper or using the Fan the Hammer, the better and better you will get and the more kills you'll also land. Deadeye is his ultimate, or more affectionately known as High Noon. It can be an offensive and defensive nightmare for people that hear that going off, look around, and they can't find him before they're dead. So these unbelievable one-shot kill type mentality. It can hit a whole team if they're all stacked up. And he also is really good with another one of his counterparts, aka himself, as we are quickly to know through the Luminosity team strat.
McCree is one of my favorite characters. I love playing McCree, and whenever I get to play an offensive character, he's one of my go-tos, as well as Tracer. But McCree is interesting because, like we said before, he is what people call a hit scan character, where wherever you shoot is what you hit. So if you shoot at a person's face, there's no travel time for your bullet or anything. You literally headshot them. So people who get really good at being dead accurate with his gun can be very, very deadly with McCree. The first thing that you want to master with McCree is his flashbang Fan the Hammer combo, which basically consists of getting up close to an enemy, throwing your flashbang at them, and shooting them point blank
With the alternate
with
fire.
your right click. Yeah, where you unload your 6 shots on them. And usually when you're up that close and you flashbang them,
Can't miss.
you have enough time to reposition your aim and pretty much do all the shots. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you play him enough and you get the hang of it, it's kind of like your main way to kill people with McCree. You kind of wanna learn how to sneak up to the enemy, so you want to know kind of like your back ways, your alleyways. Since McCree doesn't necessarily have anything that shields him, he doesn't have any like movement abilities aside from his roll, which is a very short roll, and honestly is not, I wouldn't consider it like a movement ability. Is a very small dodge and more of an offensive tool to kind of like finish up your opponent before they finish you. So yeah, with him you want to be very careful about your positioning. You can never be out too much in the open because it's a surefire way to get killed. The way I like thinking about it is you're relying on your senses and your guts like a good cowboy. If you go into an area and things don't feel right, you don't go in there with McCree, because he's not like other heroes like Winston or Tracer that if things go south, you can really quickly get away from there and be like, oh, that's not where I want to go. With McCree,
you don't want to be in that saloon, cowboy.
If things go south with McCree, things go south, all right? With him, you really are kind of like the kill or die mentality, pretty much. You're a good old
Glass
cowboy.
cannon.
Yeah, and either you kill your opponent right away, or they probably will kill you. That's why another reason why I call McCree an 1 versus 1 hero. You want to be picking up these skirmishes to kind of like see where heroes are kind of alone by themselves and try to like flank them or approach them, hopefully without too much danger, and kill him that way, or at least lure him to where you are and kill him on your own terms. Aside
Last
from
thing
that,
about McCree that I wanted to touch on real quick before Andres wraps it up is that I've experienced a few team comps this last weekend where they used a McCree Reinhardt combination on payload, and they were able to position the Reinhardt in front, and with that 0 travel distance scan that you're talking about, what was it called, hit scan, you're able to locate those targets and headshot them behind a safe shield with the Reinhardt. And then if Reinhardt gets approached by somebody that has high damage, or you round a corner and there's a bastion, you send the McCree after them to delete them in order to keep pushing the payload.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. And that was the last thing I was going to say about McCree. The sign of a really good McCree is not only him being able to master the flashbang combo and being really good 1v1, but really good McCrees get really, really good at kind of like that medium range fire, especially when they start getting really accurate with their Peacekeeper. You become really deadly at a distance, because once you get accurate, anyone who's standing in front of you becomes a target for you, and it's kind of like shooting ducks, right? And especially once you're able to aim at their head properly, you can kill a lot of people from a very decent range. So yeah, that Peacekeeper
like
is nothing
Turkey
to shy on. Yeah, he's a really good offense hero, and he's really good at short range. It's easier to master his short range, and a little harder to master his kind of like medium to long range. But he's very rewarding if you're good with the hit scan style of characters.
Yep. The what would I say? Like, basically, offensive heroes are typically going to be in that camp where mechanical skill far outweighs finding a good character of that type, or good McCrees from great McCrees. The mechanical skill is just like Grand Canyon type realms of difference a lot of the times.
Yeah, especially with some of them. I feel like with some of them it's more noticeable than with others. Like Reaper, I would say, is one of the most noob-friendly characters that there is in Overwatch, because you don't have to really aim like too dead accurate. You just aim in a general direction, and then you can get away from certain things. You can heal. So he's kind of like a little more.
Yeah, I found Reaper really difficult as a newer shooter player to the PC. I never really know when to get out of situations and when to be aggressive. I always feel like I'm kind of in the medium range, and I should be in the close range. And I know that I'm kind of maybe in the minority there, but I've always found Reaper to be very hard to play. And we're going to get to the most new-friendly of the offensive heroes with that segue, and we're going to jump into Farah, the rocket-slinging master from Egypt. She is an airborne assault and splash damage hero that does not benefit from headshots. She is incredible attack range, has no damage fall off, and has what we call splash damage. I know I mentioned, but splash damage is, for those again that are maybe really noob friendly for the show, anything around where the impact of the shot is, the explosive range, has a slight fall off of damage, but the main explosive area will have a flat damage radius. It's very strong against static targets such as bastions and Torbjorns in order to delete them from range. It's also really good against groups of people, obviously because you can hit multiple targets with one rocket. She's able to fly and get to obstacles that are super hard to get to, even on Reaper and sometimes Widowmakers. But her ability to fly, I know that there's a place in King's Row where there's a really large fall. A lot of players can fall in on the one side and then towards the defensive end checkpoint, and Farah can fall through that and then kind of hover a little bit, and then until she gets to the end and runs out of fuel, and then you hit the jump and she can jump up above and get completely behind the enemy team and wipe them out. She also has a knockback, which is really one of the longer knockbacks, but doesn't do any damage, and is able to knock people off the map when she can, or create space between her and an enemy. She is also really, really good with her ultimate. If you can pull it off and you're good in positioning, and there's not an enemy sniper that's able to find you, you can usually delete a lot of people with one ultimate or rocket barrage.
That's right. That pretty much sums Farah up. She is a very unique hero, because you don't have a lot of heroes like this in other first-person shooters, right? That just can.
Quake. Quake has a very
maybe in Quake, more the sci-fi kind of style. Yeah, I agree. Quake is totally like that with rockets and stuff too. But basically, she is a great hero for overlooking enemy defenses. She can scout things like turrets or any static targets like bastions and sort of like, and shoot them from a relatively safe distance. As long as you have line of sight of them, you can just aim your rockets at them and it'll reach them. And the cool thing about Pharah is that if they're not paying attention to you, the rockets take a minute to reach him, so by the time that they have enough time to react, that last rocket might be coming for them to kill him. You're also really good at scouting for enemy defenses. You can sneak around and then fly over and see where their Widowmaker is like standing on top of a building, that sort of thing. You can use your E ability to get people away from places like that or to knock him off the map. I know a lot of people like him in the control maps, especially the ones that have places where people can fall off, because you can fly around. For example, that first point in Legion Tower where you have a huge abyss almost like all around it. You
right out the back door,
You just wait for somebody to start walking around the little walkway, and you E around them and just knock them off the stage. So she's really good for that sort of thing. She's not great on every map. She kind of needs some outdoorsy maps and maps that have a little.
She needs room to work.
Of verticality. Yeah, she needs a little room to work. Especially if you're finding that you're having to go into buildings to chase enemy heroes or that sort of like. Pharah is not your offense hero for that. You want she's kind of like your airborne siege, right? So whenever the enemy team is clumping up or that sort of thing, Pharah is really good. She's amazing at choke points, for example. She's where she really shines, because she can really seal off a choke point or help open it up. If there's a lot of
King's
clutter,
Row especially, right?
Yeah, if there's like a lot of clutter in there of the enemy team, is kind of like putting up a huge barrier in there. She's kind of like that great kind of like siege damage to just like push you through it. So yeah, a few tips with Pharah. Her E is a great tool for positioning yourself, sometimes even when you're in the air. I've seen a couple of really good players use the E to fly from one location to the other really fast. Especially if you're close to a wall and you're flying, you can aim your E at the wall and that thing will push you relatively fast. So you can go from point A from point B faster than you would by just like flying manually through it.
It even has a rocket jump mechanic that they carried over from Team Fortress, where you take a little bit of damage and you get a little bit of air.
Yeah, you can do that with Pharah as well. And then be mindful when you use your rocket barrage, your ultimate, because you are static. So if there's a Widowmaker kind of around, you can get shut down really easily. Or even like a Soldier 76 or a McCree can take you out. So usually you want to sneak around the enemy team, or find a way so that they're not seeing you. Maybe when they're distracted or knocked down from a Reinhardt or again by a Zarya. Combining your Zarya ult with your ult is usually fantastic. You can get a team kill really easily with that.
I think that's pretty much it for Pharah. She's really strong, very noob friendly, and you have a decent amount of mobility and safety. So just remember that you don't have to aim for the head. Splash damage is your friend.
Cool. So hopefully
Pharah's also. Oh, go ahead, Andres. Sorry.
No, finish her off.
I was just going to say, Pharah is just that one hero that I feel like if you're going to jump into the game and you want to start playing Overwatch, I would recommend you play Soldier 76, you play some Pharah, and you play some Reaper, and kind of just get a feel for the maps with those characters, and then start maybe branching out.
Yep, sounds good. That should do it for the offense heroes. Hopefully, this gives whoever listens to our offense wrap-up a little more of an idea of what all these heroes do and how to use them a little more effectively, because I feel like sometimes people just pick some of these offense heroes without really thinking of what they really do, and if they're even relevant to maybe pushing the payload or maybe establishing a choke, pushing through a choke, that sort of thing. So that's a wrap up for offense.
Okay, thank you guys for listening to our wrap-up on offense. And before we close the show, I actually just got notified during the recording that there is a new patch update right before the close of the closed beta. But Hanamura has been re-enabled so that they can test it, probably. McCree's alternate fire recovery time, the change that we talked about last week, was increased from 0.3 seconds to 0.75 seconds. McCree's alternate fire, quote, is intended to be more situational, and often players are using it as a primary way to deal damage. This change makes it weaker to use repeatedly while maintaining its power as a finisher, as far as the role combos are concerned. So this is going to be really interesting, and Andres is probably going to run this test quite a bit before the thing ends. Zenyatta, Harmony Orb, which is the healing one. The healing is increased from 25 health per second to 30. So this is really good since they restricted Zenyatta's orbs to line of sight. He's able to heal more damage over the brief time that he can add that. And there's a bug fix on Route 66 where it had to do with doors and people being able to be attacked. So pretty cool. The secret link, or aka the link of the week, is there's a really cool story that I watched, really emotional, about the creators of Overwatch doing a 3-part interview with GameSpot about their progress from the ashes to make Overwatch, and a lot of the team being on the Project Titan that was a scrapped idea of an MMO that Blizzard is very secretive on what went in there. And for extra nostalgia, I even put in the release trailer for Overwatch for you guys from BlizzCon 2014 to enjoy the emotional moment of Chris Metzen's announcement. That being said, you can find our show on iTunes, on Stitcher. We're still working to get it through that new Google Music thing. I'll have to work through getting it on there soon. You can chat with us on Twitter at Omnic Lab. You can find our stuff on the website and all the links that we talked about at the website at www.omniclab.com. Please support us on Patreon. We still haven't updated our goals yet. I've been kind of slacking in that department because we got a lot of busy stuff going on in Hearthstone for both Andres and I and our other podcasts, so we'll get there. We're going to try to get you a really cool reward where if you subscribe to the podcast and you support us on Patreon, you can get the intro and outro music that Andres has tirelessly worked on and have that at your own arsenal. So it's very cool stuff. Andres, where can people find you on the interweb?
People can find me on the Twitters at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also sometimes find me streaming some Overwatch and some Hearthstone on Twitch at iPlayGames with a Z, because somebody got ahead of me and got my name. And we are still working on my music website. Hopefully that'll be up soon. We're hopefully want to have it for the half of this year or so, to get everything back up there and keep everything running. And also check out my Hearthstone podcast, Coin Concede, Mondays. We're airing on Mondays now instead of the regular Thursdays, since Cora...
There's a Cora back this last week.
Cora can make it back on Mondays, so that's been really exciting. She has a lot of stories from the preliminaries and a lot of people that she has met, so it's great having her. If you guys are interested in some Hearthstone, check out Coco Seed as well as Rob's podcast.
Yeah, speaking of my podcast, it's called The Velen's Chosen. We record on Fridays. We don't do a live show anymore because my computer will blow up. So we decided to record audio and video together and then post it on YouTube and the interwebs at velenschosen.com. You can find my Twitch at NotRobMay. That's also where we were used to record the show. So if you want to find some VODs on there, you can. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NotRob. And find my online portfolio at NotRobMedia. And you can find the link to the extended show notes on our website, as well as please check out the Twitch live stream. I almost forgot to plug this, but Andres has the privilege of running our live stream at every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/OmnicLab. That's it from all of us here at the lab. We hope to see you next week, and maybe the strategizing and the offense be with you.